What's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here, and yes, we're gonna talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 6.
Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here.
Yes, we're finally here or I'm finally here to dig into the 6th season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And this show has, I've said this every season, I've done it seems with my videos, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer has become so special to me. I mean, I am way late on the cult classic bandwagon. It has the pop culture sort of significance it's had, since it premiered, since it had its run. I'm way late on it, but going through this, it's easily become one of my all-time favorite shows. Maybe my all-time favorite show, or at least one of the two. This show is, even though I'm late to it, it's really meant a lot to me. It's one of those shows that affects me so much, and it's one of those ones where I can have a bad day, I can come home and relax and watch Buffy and just be so engaged, entertained by, and immersed into their world, and it comforts me. It seriously does. And a lot of shows are meant to do that, in movies too. But there's only a couple other ones that I can say out of all the shows I've watched that have done anything like Buffy's done, and even what Buffy does for me is really its own thing. So I absolutely love Buffy. And now Season 6, I have the box set right here. Always good to get these instead of those slim sets they did years later. As a collector and as a real fan, I think you'd want these bulkier ones here that actually open up and everything. So it's always great to have those. But now Season 6, I know, is maybe the least favored among fans, and critics alike maybe. I've been hearing since I started the show, and even before, that the last few, especially the last 2 seasons, supposedly, aren't as good as the rest of its run and everything like that. And you have that with any long-running show, really. Supernatural's had it. Things like Dexter, The Walking Dead recently. I could go on and on about fans that end up sort of shifting their views on the show as it goes on long enough. And then you have a group of people that just like to pick at whatever they can. And in some shows' cases, they do dip a little bit later into their run before they're over. Some of them end when they're supposed to end and such. So just watching Buffy through, I was like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna really change my views on the show, Season 6 or anything like that. And I like Season 5 as well. It's actually resonated with me pretty damn well, and I love every season of Buffy, honestly. And Season 6 is honestly no different. Now I know it wasn't just people disliking Season 6 for general reasons. It was certain decisions that were made, certain approaches that were taken to things that I guess people didn't care as much for. And there's definitely a controversial death in the season that I don't know if it should have necessarily happened. I like the story it went with it that followed it, with Dark Willow and everything, which we'll talk more about later in the review. Absolutely really brilliant on that end. But what surrounded all that, and as well as the controversial place that Buffy and Spike ended up in this season, it's definitely something to talk about. but what surrounded it, I thought, was yet another, just incredible season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. For me, anyway, I still absolutely love the hell out of it. Right away, he had different set of villains here, sort of reoccurring episodic, characters, from earlier seasons, forming this, what they wanted to be a Legion of Doom. And that was kind of fun. Superstar with Jonathan there was one of my least favorite episodes of the season it was in. And again, I love every Buffy season, I love every Buffy episode. I'm just meaning, preference-wise, that might have been my least favorite at the time. And the rest of them, the other two are really not overly memorable. And they even play on that as well, I made the robots, and characters don't even remember. It's kind of funny how they play off of that. And things take a bit of a darker turn with them, as one of them, kills their ex-girlfriend, and they basically end up resurrecting her as such, and then, it's a little dark. But I sort of appreciated their non-traditional approach to villains this season. These guys were the antagonists, I suppose, especially towards the end. But they weren't really, big bads or anything like that. There really was no, traditional big bad this season or anything like that. And I like how they sort of have it sneak up on you. There's no, Glory, there's no Mayor, there's no, Adam or anything like that. That's, steadily being shown throughout the season more and more. It organically develops and, occurs with Dark Willow when she emerges after what happens with Tara, which again we'll talk about in a little bit. And so I sort of like their approach to it. Is a little bit more, I don't know if I want to say realistic, but made a little more sense. There wouldn't always be some over the top, comic booky villain type figure that would be present every season. So I thought that kind of worked in that way. It felt pretty natural to go with a direction like that. And in general, another thing that people get on the season for is it's sort of more somber, dark feel all around, I guess. A little more self-serious, a bit more consistently. And the show, I think, has always done incredibly well with balancing, of course, obviously their great humor with some real emotion, character investment, and moments that you can really take seriously and get into. But this season was, it was a bit more somber, maybe a bit more grim in certain spots. But I got what they were doing. I got what Joss Whedon and the others were doing with their approach to it again. I'd say Buffy's transitioning into adulthood. She has to now. From her job at the Double Meat Palace, and the bills that are piling up, trying to figure all that out. As well as being brought back to life and figuring out if she came back different or if this is just who she is now, as well as what she's feeling with Spike and other things like that. I thought it fit the narrative of the show, to sort of have that new feel to it, or more of a feel to it like that. And I don't really know why people don't understand that. I saw it fit the path they were going down with it. And I gotta say, the opening 2 episodes, the 2-parter Bargaining, I thought were almost masterful, quite masterful, if I'm being honest. I absolutely, at first I was like, okay, Buffy usually has great openings, but this is just fine. But as I watched it, it was just incredible, Buffy coming out of the grave and everything that was surrounding around that, and just the general feel and tone of her coming back, and inside Alley with all the vampires and such, and all the emotions with that. I thought it was just wonderful. And you have her conversation with Spike, and you find out that she actually wasn't brought back from hell or pulled out some dark abyss that she was stuck in. It was heaven, or what may have been heaven, or at least some sort of peace that she was in, which I thought was a really good way to go with it. And just the way she delivers it when she tells Spike about it, I thought was really well done. Because Willow and everyone, they're very excited to have Buffy back, Dawn as well, of course, and everything like that. And Willow thinking she did a good thing, but she basically pulled Buffy back into this world where she's forced to, be the Slayer, and be surrounded by all these dark, sort of events and, death and stuff like that, from finally having peace after her sacrifice and the gift. So I thought that was a really good sort of plot point to go on with that. And again, I could talk about every episode, but that would make into like a video that's lasting like a couple hours or something like that. It was also good to see Riley back for an episode. Also really nice seeing Ivana Malecevic pop up on this as his wife. Ivana Malecevic, of course, she was great in Banshee, one of my other all-time favorite shows, at least within my top 10, because I watch a lot of TV. So it was good to see her in this. I'm hoping to see him back in the last season, I'd assume, but either way, I think I'm kind of content with it. I was glad they didn't try and force like another, romance or love triangle between the two. I like how they played on with that. Although again, like one of my issues with season 5 was everyone getting on Buffy's back about it being somehow her fault that Riley had, left, when it was Riley is the one that made the mistake, and I didn't like how they had Buffy being the one to chase after him at the end. It should have been him doing everything it took to, get Buffy to forgive him, but, I don't know, it just bugged me. It reminded me of, I love season 3, it's probably my favorite season, but again, when Buffy leaves after, temporarily killing Angel, it's like how everyone laid into her about that, how she is being so selfish and no one caring about how that Buffy felt suddenly. I don't know. But it was still good having Riley back for that episode. I thought they found a good balance with him. And yes, we obviously have to talk about Once More with Feeling, one of the most iconic episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the show's run. Critics and fans alike, no matter what they thought of season 6, this musical episode was a standout. I was questioning it. I give Buffy almost my full confidence in every episode and every season they do. I've never really been more trusting with how I'm going to enjoy a show before. But I was like, musical episode, let's get to it. It'll probably be kind of amusing. And it was, but it was also glorious. It was about as funny as you thought it would be, and how they fit it into the thread in the episode, I thought, was nice and such. So, obviously that was enjoyable when you have Buffy and Spike's first kiss at the end of that, and, we're gonna dip into the Buffy and Spike thing in just a couple of minutes here, but I did want to mention Buffy's job at the Double Meat Palace again. Her being in, fast food service, and, sort of like different retail, and it's not retail, but different customer service situations and such. It felt relatable to me. So seeing that played on with like that old lady, feeding, or that old lady that was turning the people into the meat and such, and you thought the manager was the creepy off one, but it turned out to be this old patron and everything like that. I thought was good. I like that it wasn't just a one episode thing either, and Buffy actually, had to work there to try and, pay what her mom couldn't from what she left. And another thing is, Giles, who we'll talk more about, when they get towards the end of the season here, which we will shortly, he wasn't in a lot of the season. He turned into a special guest star. I'm not sure if Anthony Stewart had wanted to work on other things, so that's why he had a bit of a more touch-and-go role this season, or if they specifically wanted him to sort of be away. And, I thought, again, it worked with the story, for him to go to England and everything like that, and, try and, have Buffy, grow up from a certain perspective, and how that was tied back into when they, sort of apologized to one another at the end of the season. I thought it was well handled. So I miss seeing Giles because he's like my second favorite character, to Buffy. But when he did come in, it felt meaningful, and you really enjoyed it every time. And we'll talk about Anya and Xander as well. But honestly, since we were talking about Spike a little bit, let's talk about it, huh? I did like how they're handling the Buffy and Spike, relationship romance this season. There are some, nice, genuine moments with him within the season, and I think, Spike's build up from villain to anti-hero in season 5, and everything was really well handled and nicely built up. And of course Buffy, she is questioning if she's maybe like soulless or something, or if she came back different, but this is just how she's feeling as Tara eventually addresses that. At first, I wasn't caring for how they were approaching their relationship. They're playing off as more of like a toxic sort of thing, and it could definitely be in certain aspects. But it did bug me a little bit that Tara was the only one that sort of acknowledged that Spike's actually done a lot of good recently, and he, maybe not technically has changed, but he's actually, something's, kind of driving him to do good, and he's not just like this evil incarnate that, oh my god, I can't believe you have interest in him or something like that. It bugged me that Tara was the only one that took that perspective on it. I think Spike does genuinely care about Buffy too, obviously, especially with where they're going at the end of the season. But, there's still that vampire part of them, yes. They like to remind us of that, quite often. So that's what eventually drives, Spike to sort of get so frustrated with Buffy, and they're sort of off again, on again, off again, connection. And, yes, the attempted rape, and, yeah, that scene basically made me feel the way it made most people feel. I mean, I love Buffy so much as a character, and just the way they did that scene, there's no like dread, like action music or anything like that. It was just just them struggling, and how close Spike got, and before Buffy finally just threw him off. It was uncomfortable, definitely, obviously uncomfortable to watch. And just how they edited it, it was kind of fast, a little choppy, but I think it was actually supposed to be that way. And you can, see Spike, at first he's questioning, wait, what did I do before he leaves? And then he's questioning, wait, why didn't I do it? Because there is a genuine love within Spike for Buffy, and that's why when he seeks out, we think to get the chip, from his head removed at the end of the season, but the demon gives him what he really seeks at the bottom of his heart, I think, and that's to have a soul again, and be the kind of man Buffy would actually want, and the kind of man she deserves. So I think it was a very complex duality of Spike there in that scene as well, that very few people have acknowledged. That's what some of the people behind the show have tried to explain. And it's definitely the most, sort of grounded, sort of real and dark thing that the show has probably had. And I'm not condoning what Spike did there, don't, twist it like that or anything, but I think there's another layer there that people don't really see on the surface when they approach that scene at face value. There's a lot of complex sort of mechanisms working there. And if the show and what Spike actually deals with and what Angel deals with when he doesn't have a soul, but part of him still kind of clings to maybe there's more. You could kind of see the struggle there on his end as well. But still very, very uncomfortable scene to watch, and I look forward to seeing how they try and build Spike's redemption back once he has a soul now, and I imagine it's just going to crush him. I think it already was. He just is kind of, oh no, I don't care, why didn't I do it? It really is killing him. So yeah, I'm not going to say I enjoyed that, but I can kind of see what they're going for there, I suppose. But I can understand why James Marsters and the others didn't want to do a scene like that again. I fully understand that. And before we go into like the very tail end of the season here with Dark Willow and everything, also I really enjoyed the extra concentration on Xander this season. Him and Anya's wedding, I thought it was kind of a fun episode of the different families and such, but hats off to Nicholas Brendon this season as well. Xander got more concentration than ever, especially near that wedding area and then to the end of the season with what happens with Willow. Such an excellent, relatable performance from him, more than ever. I really enjoyed the extra concentration on Xander. He's one of my favorite characters as well. And I understood his approach to both of the visions he had, but then also his fear of being like his father and such, I thought was well handled. And I like that they gave him and Buffy more sort of one-on-one scenes. It was really, really sweet, and nice tie back to how much they meant to each other from the beginning and their development since then. Now we gotta talk about, yes, the other controversial point of this season. That is what happened with Tara. And I guess I absolutely loved Tara. At first I was unsure, because I was really a big fan of Oz as well. But I thought they've done so nicely with Tara and Willow's relationship, and the fact that she is hit by a stray bullet. It definitely gets you. It was very obviously incredibly sad scene. And a lot of people hated it because it felt like a trope. They make they have had sex before and everything like that. They never had too elaborate of a scene because it was still kind of a shaky time for doing things like that on television. But they had kissed and everything, and obviously had sex plenty of times implied off screen. And sort of like little instances where they started obviously, and they obviously want to show more. But with things like the 100 with Lexa, not a few years ago, and different things of that nature, it definitely sets off red flags when you see that happen. And a show like Buffy, as big of a phenomenon as Buffy is, to do that thing with someone like Tara, it's definitely unfortunate. Do I think they had to kill Tara? No. I much would have preferred them killing off Anya, if I'm being completely honest. Anya's kind of entertaining, but some of her shtick and her banter kind of gets a little old. And I feel like Tara has much more of a use and a function on the show than what Anya does on her own. But we never would have gotten that amazing Dark Willow set of episodes there if it didn't happen. And then you could argue, but what did Tara die for? Just to service the Willow character and have her go down that dark development path and such. It's not like it was for a man yet. Xander is the one that sort of brought Willow back at the end, along with what Giles had done with her and such. But I thought it gave Willow her greatest concentration in the whole series. So I don't really think it was useless. I still would prefer her being resurrected somehow, although it would have taken away from the impact of it in the long run. And I also feel if Tara was to die, it should have been something other than a stray bullet. This feels so, like by chance she's in the upstairs window, not even standing right against it, so I don't know. And again, I still would prefer Tara to be alive. It was frustrating and did really bother me too, but the Dark Willow stuff was excellent. And Alison Hannigan's acting was just fantastic in that scene, and on her demeanor as Dark Willow. And as I said earlier, this season didn't take that traditional approach with the big bad, but we had Dark Willow pop up within the last few episodes, and I think Dark Willow sort of became the best villain the show's ever had because of how much we feel for the character. Her look is really cool. How Alison Hannigan played it in contrast to how Willow normally is, I thought was absolutely terrific. Her revenge on Warren, from pressing the bullet into his chest, with her magics, right? To skinning him. I was so happy. I was so satisfied that they at least let Willow kill Warren, since he's the one who's directly responsible for it, and you can tell he was sort of the worst of the three. So if they were to save the other two, I was glad they let her have that, within the story, to actually have that revenge and justice. And I like that there were characters that acknowledge, Warren probably deserved that. I'm a Punisher guy myself, so there are people that deserve those kinds of things to me. So I thought that was justified there. And then Willow going after him on the road and everything, I thought was great. Her and Giles' magical duel. For some reason, the picture of I have the Giles ready didn't work. But when Giles showed up at the end of the season, imbued with those magics that he had gotten before heading there, I thought it was really cool actually seeing him being able to use abilities like that. And I thought it tied in nicely because Giles was the one that had warned Willow earlier about how she was abusing her abilities and such, and how it led into her addiction storyline this season and everything. So I thought it was good that her and that him and Willow had that standoff there. And they teased like a possible Giles death. I was glad they didn't go with that. I would have been annoyed having him as a guest star and he just dies at the end of the season. It would have hit me. I would have really, felt something over it, but I was glad they kept him alive. And then the fight between her and Buffy was, pretty good as well. And I was pleasantly surprised that Leigh had Xander be the one to finally talk Willow down. And yes, it was part of Giles' plan. He had planned on letting her absorb the magic within him. Eventually, that becoming too much, and it would work in a way that there would be a way that feelings or emotion could slip in again. That's sort of what happened to allow Xander to get through to her. But I was still glad Leigh let Xander have that moment instead of Buffy or something, which would have been good as well. And they do have their talk. But again, I was just happy with being a Xander fan that they really focused on their friendship again, and that breakdown on top of the mountain and everything. And then Dark Willow slowly transitioning back into our favorite redhead. I thought it was really touching and really a meaningful point, after their friendship all these seasons and all they've been through together and felt for each other. I thought really, really hit home. So, yeah. And then it ends, of course, with revealing that Spike is going to have his soul back for the 7th season. Now I got to wait a few days to, order that 7th season box set, unfortunately. So it's frustrating. I'd like to start it tonight, but I gotta wait. But personally, I absolutely loved season 6. Yeah, there's some things that are debated, but I honestly think this season is going to sit well with me. I like sort of the more somber approach of things. I thought fit the narrative. And yeah, I would have preferred Tara not dying, but the Dark Willow thing was amazing. And there are a lot of great episodes as always. I love every episode, and or at least I really like every episode. So I've had to rate season 6. I'm giving it an A. I'm giving it a 90% somewhere, 94%, I don't know, 93, 95, 96, I don't know. I thought it was still fantastic. Not my absolute favorite, but again, I love every season of Buffy, and my favorite's still probably 3, then I'd say probably 2, and then after that, it's maybe between 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, you have a good range there, so I'm not quite sure either, but I might even prefer it to 5, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to see how it sits, and eventually when I show my girlfriend the show and everything, I can't wait to rewatch all of this. So yeah, I absolutely love Buffy, I still do. I thought season 6 was incredible overall. So yeah, let me guys thought about it. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Oh yeah, and also Dawn. Almost forgot. Dawn was fine this season as well, a bit more frustrating than she was last season. I had her go into sort of that typical teenager, she starts stealing stuff because she doesn't have a mom, and Buffy's, distant and everything like that. So, her being, oh wait, you guys need to be here with me, and, her wish to, keep them all in the house. It was a fun episode, but it felt a little typical, and it kind of happened too often when she would snap and say, oh, you guys got to spend time with me, you guys don't want to spend time with me, you don't care about me, and I felt how she took things so personally, it was a bit much sometimes, but I did like her and Buffy's moment at the end where they fight side by side, and Buffy's speech about wanting to show her the world and everything and not protect her from it, I thought was really, really touching. It just took a bit to get there. So yeah, peace.